I realized at that point, it was like, dude, I'm just here for the cash. Like, I could die at any given moment. I don't give a fuck. So I may as well just make the money while I can. And dude, we went out on the QRF and just ran roughshod over Baghdad after that, man. It was like, the car gets in the way. Dude, you can watch it on YouTube. Like all those YouTube, like people, oh, Blackwater did such a great job. Go watch YouTube. That was us. But it was at that point where it was like, fuck it, man. Like, I'm here to make money and I'm here to do fun shit. And my definition of fun shit is not the same. Dude, it was absolutely insane. So I got over there in like 04 when it like first kicked off because Blackwater was there for a while. But I got there in 04 when they got the State Department contract, and there was no rules of engagement. There was no like, what the hell are we gonna do? Where are we gonna go? Like, no GPS. And it was just like we made it up as we went. And the whole mission was you get an important person from point A to point B, and you get them back alive. And then after that, like, all bets are off. I was like dead. That's Bill O'Reilly and his.
That's outfit. Damn right. That's the man, the myth, the legend himself. Fuck it, we'll do it live. Yeah, it's weird. Like all these people that are in these high stake professions, like they always feel like this. They have this bravado, and I'm like, dude, chill the fuck out. You're in a newsroom.
Yeah, just take a breath. Nothing bad's gonna happen to you today.
Yeah, man. Dude, Morgan, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. It's was actually before you hit me up, I was reflecting on that whole era, the Blackwater era, I like to call it. When every grunt, and I remember like vividly in Iraq, you know, around the smoke circle with friends and people before they even went to selection, before they even went to become a cool guy, like, yeah, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this Iraq tour, you know, I'm going to go soft. In a couple years, I'm going to go Blackwater. I'm going to be a contractor. No matter who you were at that time period in Iraq, like that was the most alluring thing. Seeing those dudes roll out, it's like you wanted to know what that world was like. I think many individuals really found it attractive, but yet very few got a chance to do that. So Morgan, I want to hear from you. What was it like in those years in Blackwater, my man?
Oh, dude, it was insane. So we would be approached by soldiers all the time. They'd be like, we're going to come and we're going to work for Blackwater, man. And then I'd be like, yeah, dude, just here's my email address. Shoot me an email, and never hear from them again, dude. Because like when you get home, you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, and your family and your BAH and your food. And then the prospect of being in Blackwater when you're not overseas, people are like, maybe it's not what I thought it was going to be anyway. So
some found out the hard way because they went and they joined up like triple canopy, and it was just like gate guard duty for like 8 to 9 months. It's like, that's not the same.
Yeah, no, that's fair, dude. It was absolutely insane. So I got over there in like 04 when it like first kicked off, because Blackwater was there for a while.
Yeah.
But I got there in 04 when they got the State Department contract, and there was no rules of engagement. There was no like, what the hell are we going to do? Where are we going to go? Like, no GPS. So you just had this big map, and we'd be like, hey, we got to drive around that part of the river that looks like a cock. And then after we get to that part on the 14th July bridge, we'll take a left. And it was just like we made it up as we went. And the whole mission was you get an important person from point A to point B, and you get them back alive. And then after that, like all bets are off. So then you go to the pool and you just start drinking heavily. Or you go and you start playing like No Limit Texas Hold'em, and there's like $3,000 on the table. And rockets are coming in, and you're like, dude, I'm not leaving. I'm like, if we get rocketed, that's just life. Like,
yeah.
There's $3,000 here, and I don't trust any of you fuckers. So, dude, it was absolutely like insane. And that's why I had to write the book. I was like, people are going to forget about just how crazy it was.
Dude, I can't even fathom, because movies don't do it justice. You really, unless you get like a really good director, because everything that we imagine as, you know, in that time period, my first deployment was during the surge, like that 07, 08, then the 2009, 2010. But you already started hearing stories about how crazy the Blackwater guys were, and we already had those national incidents. But I want to take it back to like that origin story, because you weren't always a Blackwater guy. Like, how did you first hear about it, and where did your military service? How did that get you into Blackwater?
Dude, I was like the poster child for knowing somebody and being able to get in, right? Like Blackwater in '04, Blackwater, nobody knew about him except for the Fallujah incident where
Yeah.
they had like the contractors get killed. And then my buddy was a Force Recon Marine. We were in the Air National Guard together. And he's like, dude, I'm going to go work for Blackwater. And I was like, have fun. Like, I'll look for you on the news. So he went over there, and literally the day you got to Moyoc, it happened to me also. They said, hey, do you know anybody that would want to work for us? Because like we're just randomly calling people. So that's what happened to me. I was like dead asleep. It's 5 a.m. And I get this random call from a guy, call him Steve. And he's like, hey, you want to work for Blackwater? And I was like, not really. And he's like, how about for $550 a day? And I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I think I want to do that. And he's like, dude, we can get you on a plane tomorrow. And I was like, wait, hold on. I'm like 2 weeks away from finishing my college classes. Just let me finish my college classes. And the guy's like, what the fuck you want to do that for? You can start making money right now. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But like I've been in summer school for a while. So let me just finish this. So I finished those college classes, dude. Like the next day, I'm on a plane to Moyoc, North Carolina. And I showed up as like the Air Force Security Forces guy, right? Like the MP, nothing cool. And the guy that's sitting next to me is like, oh yeah, I was a SEAL. And the other guy's like, I was a Ranger. And dude, it's like all these special operations guys. And I'm like, yeah, Air Force Security Forces. Like, yeah, just really. But you have to remember back in '04, nobody had any war experience.
Exactly.
So, like, I was there during the ground offensive in '03, and people are like, oh, you were in the war. And I was like, yeah, I got to watch airplanes land. It was really terrifying. But, I mean, all these guys had trained for 10, 15, 20 years. And unless you were in Somalia, you didn't have any combat experience. You didn't have combat vets.
Yeah.
So you just came in like, dude, I just shut my mouth and listened. It was like, oh, that's how you're supposed to do CQB? I don't think I've ever even tried this before. So we're doing like learning how to do CQB. And then they would just walk in and grab somebody and be like, hey, I need to talk to Bob over there. And then you'd never see Bob again. It was like, yeah, it was just a weird, like we started with 50. We may have graduated like 22. So they would be doing your background check. Something would pop. Dude, this guy's just gone left or right. And you'd be shocked how many people show up to Moyoc, North Carolina, like out of shape. It's a mile and a half run, dude. Like you can gut this out. Okay, guys. But like we lost people on the run. How many people, they were like former Rangers and stuff, they couldn't shoot. They hadn't shot in like 10, 15 years, right? So we lost them at the rifle range, then the pistol range. Like it was shocking how many people just got filtered out over the course of 2.5 weeks. And then most of the time it was just waiting for your security clearance. So dude, I'm 23, like the all-American boy. They're like, you ever smoke marijuana? And I was like,
never, sir.
No, I had never. Have you ever? Never did that. So do my security clearance pop through really, really fast. And next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Jordan to go into Baghdad. It was just, it's not as cool as like Deadpool or Wolverine, but like it just happened, man.
Dude, that's the truth though. A lot of times these processes are exactly what you just talked about. It's just to hurry up and wait for a clearance to come through, the background to come through, and then testing. And people would be shocked. I think a lot of things you have to experience to really understand, like killing those myths. Like before I went to selection, same thing. I'm like, you're going to get beat up by cadre every single day. They're going to choke you to the point where you pass out and die. And then you show up and it's just like, pay attention to the whiteboard, be here at this time. Hey, you didn't pass this, you're done. Go. And it's like, wait a second. No one's going to jump out and beat the shit out of me? Well, not in selection, but that comes later.
Yeah, it's never as like hard or as crazy as you think it's going to be, which is, yeah. I mean, and dude, I was with some of the most hardened dudes on the planet, right? Like who's the guy from Black Hawk Down that was like, this is my safety, sure. Like he was there. There was a bunch of DevGru guys there that you just like, these were the baddest dudes on the planet, and you just talk to them and they were just normal humans. Let's have ourselves a Corona beer.
So SEAL Team 6, huh? Weird.
I was like, I heard of those guys. I watched that Charlie Sheen movie and like, That's it, right?
Did you notice that? Was there a difference in the camaraderie? I mean, we have to think that brotherhood is brotherhood, but when you're getting paid a ridiculous amount of money, like, is there still that bond there, or is it just like, hey, when I clock in, we're teammates, but as soon as I'm back, like, I don't fucking know you.
Dude, I mean, there's definitely the camaraderie. Like, there's some of the dudes I still talk to this day. It's been almost 20 years.
Yeah,
But at the same time, like, it's not like basic training where you go in and you're hanging out with people for 6 to 12 weeks, whatever the
yeah,
heck it is. It's like you go in, they put you on a plane, you're in Baghdad, and they say, hey, now you're on team 12. So you go over to team 12. And then you only hang out with your team. Like,
yeah.
I know there's a number of people that tell me, oh, my buddy X was over there. And I was like, dude, I have no idea who he was. It's like, if you weren't on my team, or like I didn't have direct interaction with you on a regular basis, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it got very political because you have a bunch of dudes that don't like to be told what to do. And then you put a team leader on top of them. And the team leader is trying to run it like it's a military operation. And people are like, no, fuck this. You're wasting my time. Like, I'm here to make money, and then I'm here to go drink beer. So let me be. And we ended up firing 2 team leaders while we were there, just because it was like, dude, like, sergeant majors, you can't get out of that military mindset. So, grown men are not going to deal with that crap if you don't have to. I'm not an E5 anymore. Like, leave me be.
Yeah. At the same time, that's such a hard thing to wrap your head around, right? Like, you're in a combat zone and you're working, and I don't know how I feel about that term mercenary, because it's not like you're going out there without any rules and regulations, but at the same time, it's like, you're not a government employee. You're not a rank and file soldier. So how do you lead, and how do you work within that team structure? Like, how did you guys figure that out?
I don't think we ever did, to be completely honest with you. And I know some people take umbrage with the term mercenary, but like, if you hadn't waved $500 in my face every day, I wouldn't have gone back over there. I still need to do that job. So, people sit there and say, oh, we're working for the State Department and we did great things. Yeah, that's fine. But if they weren't giving you $500 a day, you weren't going to be there. So the dynamics, it was all team by team, right? And then slowly, by the time you got through having like X amount of people on the team, because people rotate in, they rotate out.
Yeah.
You kind of get this core group of 5-6 guys on a team. And then everything just kind of starts working itself out. But it really is like the team leader and the TC. If those guys are locked on, you're set. If those guys were like, it made life miserable, man. And I was on both types of teams, right? I was on the QRF, which was just like a vote on, vote off, straight Survivor style. And then I was on another team where they were like, here's a sergeant major that volunteered to be a team leader. And that guy lasted like 2 weeks. He had to go, man.
High and tights and everybody shaves.
Yeah. Where's your polo shirt? Like, dude, like when I got there, this is like wearing a t-shirt and shorts out on a run. That was just normal day. And then after a while, people were like, you need to wear polo shirts. And we're making $550 a day. And we're like, oh, it's terrible. I can't believe that they would make us wear a polo shirt and pants. Like even the smallest little slight was like, we're soldiers. We're going to bitch about stuff. But it was like the dumbest thing looking back, because now I wear polo shirts for work all the time. And I'm like, they're not so bad.
It's not so bad.
Yeah.
It's just when somebody tells you have to do something, that's when it gets you irked.
Yeah.
Dude, so one of the things that like I really want to know is getting on the ground. We always have restrictions. In the military, you're constricted by budget, allocations, rules, regulations, lines of effort, lines of operations. What was it like on the ground, not having those? But I'm sure you had impediments. I'm sure you had restrictions, but what was it like navigating those new rules and new boundaries?
Well, that's the problem, is that there weren't rules, right? Like you talk about rules, restriction, rules of engagement. We just didn't have those. Or if we did, like, it never got down to the lowest level to say what you can and can't do.
It's
literally
a complete lack.
No, it's insane when you think about it, right? Well, because we don't have the UCMJ over us.
Yeah.
We're not State Department employees. The local laws of Iraq don't apply because we're U.S. citizens. So what laws actually govern us? And the truth is, I still don't know. I have no idea. And I think there's a reason for that, right? Like that's why you have private military contractors go over there instead of sending soldiers. It's like you can push them in, you can push them out. Something bad happens, you get to blame them. If everything goes good, the State Department gets to take credit for it. So really navigating it was like, here's your mission: get this guy from point A to point B, get him back alive, and whatever you have to do in that time frame is what you have to do. Like, don't go out there and shoot up a bunch of people. But at the end of the day, 0405 was all the car bombs, the IEDs.
Yeah.
So when a car is coming up on you, you have to make that decision. Am I going to pop open my door and shoot at this car? Or am I going to let this car come into our convoy? And it wasn't even a decision at that point. It's like, look, I got the ambassador to Iraq. This car's coming up on us at 35 miles an hour. I can try to shoot out his tire or shoot out his grill, and hopefully he'll stop. And if he doesn't, then, I'm going to start moving my rifle up naturally. So it really was just making a split-second decision at any given time. And then being able to go home and put your head on the pillow after reading a Harry Potter book and being able to sleep, right? Like everybody thinks that we're out there losing our minds and just shooting everything up, but it just wasn't the case.
Yeah. How many trips did you do with Blackwater?
Outside of the green zone?
Yeah.
Oh, hundreds.
Oh,
I mean, dude, there was when I first got there, we would do 1 to 2 a day. And then when I got on the QRF, we were probably doing 6 to 12 every day. So, and then a couple of State Department guys got killed. One got rocketed while he was washing his beanbag, and
horrible way to go.
yeah, with your loofah in your hand, right? But once they realized, holy crap, this is a real combat zone, you could see that the missions were they were going downhill pretty quick. There weren't a whole lot of people that really wanted to go out there and help the government of Iraq run itself. So put this in perspective. When we got into Iraq, we got rid of the Ba'ath Party, and everybody says, oh, we got rid of the military. Worst mistake we ever did. No, we got rid of their entire government.
Yeah.
Nobody knew how to clean up garbage off the streets. Nobody knew how to land planes. Nobody knew how to import, export. We went to the stock exchange, and it was people with chalk on chalkboards that were straight up saying, oh, somebody's buying this stock for 3 squigglies, and now somebody's offering us 4 squigglies, and they'd take an eraser and do 4 squigglies, man. Nobody knew how to do that. So the State Department was tasked with putting these people over there from Waste Management, the FAA, from ExxonMobil, so they could figure out the oil, and going out there and teaching these guys how to run a government. And dude, it was a lost cause from the beginning, because if a guy can't figure out how to use an Excel spreadsheet to say today's Monday, maybe we actually clean up the trash in Haifa, then there was no way we were actually going to build them up to the point that they could actually run their own place.
Dude, I saw it as a young paratrooper. That's one thing people don't understand. It was fucked from the get-go. We threw so much money at infrastructure, but infrastructure doesn't do shit when you don't have people that can actually go in there and work in the hospitals, run the schools, run the community center. It doesn't fucking matter how many things we built for them. They didn't have the people or the knowledge to run the country. As you're sitting there, you have a front row ticket to seeing our failed American policy. How did you maintain your composure and not say fuck it, I don't care how much money they're paying me, I can't see the stupidity anymore?
Well, dude, I mean, the money, that let's be honest here, it was just the money. It was spectacular, because who cares? I think that there's a natural progression when you deploy overseas. The first 3 months you want to help.
Yeah.
The next 3 months you're okay, it really feels like I'm wanting to help them more than they want to help themselves.
Yes, dude. That's it right there.
and then month 6 through 9, you're pretty much fuck it, I don't care. Yeah. And then months 9 through 12, you're I just got to get out of here. And it was the same thing with Blackwater, right? After the first 3 months, and we went through the elections and we got to see people with their finger. And they had the purple on it, right? And they're oh, yes, democratic elections, yeah. And then after a while, you're okay, well, they don't actually give a crap, so why do I give a crap? And once you hit that I don't give a crap at the 6-month mark, it's really easy to be I'm just going to sit here and collect my paycheck and get as much adventure as I can. But dude, I went there as a junior enlisted guy. I went there as a Blackwater contractor, and then I went back as an Army intelligence officer. So I've seen the perspective of
Oh,
Iraq from a
shit.
number of different like perspectives, and I can tell you that what was happening is that every government agency over there wanted to take credit for making Iraq this bastion of democracy.
Yeah.
None of them played well together. Like, we never told the Army where we were going, when we were going. We didn't have Blue Force Tracker. Like, we just jumped in the vehicles and jammed out. So I remember, I think it was like the third run we ever did. I take a left out of the green zone up by the northern bridges, and I pop around the corner, and there's like this Army convoy, and it's got the old Humvees that weren't even up armored.
Yeah.
And the guy's in the back with a 240 Bravo on a swivel, and he looks at us, and we look at him, and we're like, we're friends. And he takes that 240 Bravo, goes, and I was like,
Oh,
okay,
shit.
whoa. And then he figured out, like, okay, they're Suburbans. They're probably our guys. And we were fine, but like, nothing makes your butthole pucker up like a 240 Bravo being pointed at you. I don't care if you got armor or not, it's going through it.
So, which is being manned by a fucking 19-year-old private that gives two fucks.
yeah, and I'm still in my I care part, you know? So, like nobody coordinated with anybody. And that goes from military unit to military unit, from the CIA to the DIA to the State Department. Everybody just kind of did their own thing and took credit when things were going good. And then when things were going bad, it was like that Spider-Man meme, right? It was like,
yeah.
you. Yeah.
So, dude, I have to ask you, with the title of the book being Guns, Girls, Greed, when did shit go south for you where you were like, you know what, I'm going to push the fucking envelope?
With Baghdad or with the book? Because both.
With Baghdad.
Dude, so it's like a natural progression, right? Like I mentioned. But then in April of 2005, we had 6 of our guys get shot down in a helicopter. And I knew 2 of them pretty well.
Yeah.
And then we had another contractor get killed in Ramadi, or coming back from Ramadi. And I realized at that point, it was like, dude, I'm just here for the cash. Like, I could die at any given moment. I don't give a fuck. So I may as well just make the money while I can. And dude, we went out on the QRF and just ran roughshod over Baghdad after that, man. It was like, the car gets in the way. Dude, you can watch it on YouTube. Like, all those YouTube, like, people, well, Blackwater did such a great job. Go watch YouTube. That was us. But it was at that point where it was like, fuck it, man. Like, I'm here to make money, and I'm here to do fun shit. And my definition of fun shit is not the same as yours. So we were coming up on this car.
It's being hood rat as fuck.
Yeah. I'm just doing hood stuff. It's not a big deal. There was this white Kia. And I remember, dude, I'll remember till the day I die, because it was clean. It was actually washed, and it was like perfectly white. You know how everything's just coated in dust over there?
Yeah.
It's like,
oh yeah.
It was like pristine. And we're going around this roundabout, and it doesn't get out of our way. And dude, we're hitting the air horn. We're like throwing bottles, like water bottles at it, trying to get it out of the way. It doesn't move. Dude, we hit the back, like the driver hits the back of it and crumples the entire trunk all the way to the point that I can see the carpet inside the trunk as we're going
Holy
past.
Shit.
And dude, I feel like an asshole. Like, oh my God, I can't believe that we just did this. And as I'm driving past, I got my head out the window of the Suburban, and I got my M4 right here, and I pointed at the guy and I yell, "Next time, get out of our fucking way." And I was like, oh dude, I changed. I was going to say I'm sorry, but here I am, like, letting this guy know. He just lost his entire livelihood.
That, my friend, there's moral injury there. You know, it's weird, man. Like, we experience these moments you deployed as a uniformed service member. So, like, when you juxtapose those two experiences, like, how do you reconcile that ability to just give no fucks, make as much money, just grabbing as much as you can, but then coming in wearing uniform? Like, how do you look at that and be like, oh fuck, it's like 2 different Morgans? Or it's like, hey man, like, I believe in this cause now, or like, oh man, I'm still the same person. I don't give 2 fucks.
Well, I mean, I was still the same person. I don't give 2 fucks. To this day, I am. So, like, I went back over as a first lieutenant, and I had an intel team. We did SIGINT, HUMINT, and like counterintelligence. And we're sitting there on the base, and I'm eating some nasty fried chicken. It's like this disgusting JSS in northern Baghdad, JSS Justice, where it's where Saddam Hussein got hanged, and where all the HVIs were. So I'm sitting there eating this nasty ass chicken, hating my life because I'm making like a third of the money I was with Blackwater. And these PMCs walk in and like sit down and start chowing down their chicken, like everything's fine. And I'm like, they didn't tell us that they were coming. We didn't know what was going on. What if something happened? Like, we wouldn't have been able to support them. And then, like, my head flipped back and goes, oh, yeah, I used to be that guy. Yeah, no, I would never tell anybody either. So, I mean, it's like two different Morgans. It's like, leadership, army, officer Morgan. And then it's like Blackwater, I'm going to make all the money Morgan. And a lot of that just comes with age. But at no point did I ever think that we were going to win that thing. Like, it was a lost cause pretty much from the day we got in. The day we got in, I'm all over the place, but
that's okay. Hey,
this
is security Halt, man. It's what we do. We bounce back and forth.
So I'm there for the ground offensive. I'm in my mop gear. I haven't showered in like 7 days. Like, I just stink. But the cool thing about mop gear is like it absorbs all your smell, so you don't notice it. And I've been eating MREs.
Is that charcoal, baby?
Oh, dude, you sit there and fart in somebody's face. And they wouldn't smell it, and then you forget that you like took it off when you're going to bed, and you fart in somebody's face, and oh my god, who's that, dude? Yeah, but they brought in a C-17 with all the freedom fighters that they brought from Iraq to Jordan to train because you wanted to put like an Iraqi face on the ground offensive.
Yeah,
these guys come off the plane, and some of them are like they're like kids in a candy shop. They got like nicer cameras than I have. Like, they're just the happiest can be. Some of them get off and they're throwing up, and all of them look like soup sandwiches, dude. Like, I don't know how long we trained those guys, but we probably should have spent 4 or 5 more months with them because they did not look like a fighting force at all. And then I heard they went up to Nasiriyah when the fighting was going on there and pretty much like ran like cowards.
Yeah,
and that was
shit the bed.
And I was like, well, if that's the case, like, if they don't want to fight for their country, yeah, we can go and we can win militarily, but there's no way, man.
Yeah. So what was the big drive behind leaving Blackwater? Was it just you made enough money, or was it just a loss of love for the mission altogether?
No, I got fired. Yeah, I did. Multiple times, actually. That's how Blackwater works, dude. So the first time I got fired, we ended up hitting a bongo truck.
And, oh, shit.
Dude, those things they're made out of like fucking kryptonite, I think, because our Suburban was like, it was like Superman, and that thing just demolished it. It ended up bending the frame on it. And we had gotten all this up armor that we put on it by going over to the KBR guys and hand them a little bit of the devil's honey. Like, how about some Jack Daniels? And they're like, how about some up armor? So we go, and I'm like taking the up armor off, and this KBR guy comes over, and he's like, you're stealing my equipment, and he's chewing our ass. And I'm like, dude, I'm pissed. I'm like, I'm about to beat him with this fucking wrench that I got in my hand. And he went and told the State Department. The State Department's like, fire those 4 guys. So we ended up like being fired almost on the spot. But our site leader at the time was like, hold on, can we do some kind of an investigation? So they go through the investigation. It's like 3 or 4 days. And they say, okay, it wasn't KBR's armor. It was your armor. We get it. Those guys are still fired. Yeah. Fuck. So dude, I'm all like dejected. I'm like, man, I'm broke. I'm broke already. I got a Land Rover at home. Like, I don't have any money in my pocket. So then Blackwater's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send you to a different location. Nobody's really tracking anybody anyway. So we'll send you wherever you want. So I went up to Kirkuk, and I ended up staying on contract up there for like another 8 months or so. And then the second time I got fired was in Kirkuk, and I got a little bit too wasty-facedy. And then remember that movie Walk Hard?
Yes.
Where he beats the shit out of the bathroom? Yeah. That was me. I was like, I'm going to go beat up this embassy bathroom for some reason. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Who knows why? The first time I ever blacked out, but I was like,
how old were you at the time? You were in like late 20s?
Yeah, I was 25.
Oh, God. Morgan, that's typical 25-year-old behavior.
Yeah. So they fired me the second time, but they were pretty much like, just let it calm down for like 3 to 4 weeks and you can come back. And at that point I was like, dude, I got to go and actually have like a real life.
Yeah.
Because, and you probably saw it overseas, all these guys get so into their life that like they lose their entire family. People getting divorced. People that are like, oh, she's going to take half my retirement anyway. I may as well stay over here. And I was like, I can't be that guy. This is not a career field. This is like a fun little adventure that I'm going on. And it's been 18 months. It's time to get the hell out of here.
Dude, I saw it in the contractors in Afghanistan all the time. Dudes are like, I haven't been in the States for like 10 years, man. I just do gigs here and I rotate to Thailand. I'm like, and they're old dudes.
Yeah.
They're like, they just let everything just go by the wayside in the United States. Marriages, family, everybody just, it's like, I make great money and I vacation every once in a while in Thailand. I'm like, dude, I get it. Money's great, but at some point, you got to have a life. And vacationing in Bangkok just doesn't seem like it's a great thing all the time. I mean, first group, you might tell me different, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, not in your 50s. You're going to have a heart attack by the time that fourth hooker shows up with the candles, you know?
Some dudes love their lady boys.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dude, so you make it back stateside and you know, feel free not to tell me, but how much money did you make in your time with Blackwater?
About $270,000 over 18 months. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
How much did you save?
Well, a lot less than that, I'll tell you. So a lot of the Blackwater guys didn't pay their taxes because they were like, "Oh, I was over here as a soldier; it's tax free." Just didn't pay Uncle Cheddar, man. So I was smart enough to pay Uncle Sam.
Good.
But if you're there for 330 out of 365 days, you become like legally an expatriate.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So your first $85,000 was tax free because I was there all of 2004, and then I paid taxes on the extra 120, and then I had a Land Rover, you know, all the other horse crap. But you know, I probably had like 110,000 stashed away by the time I got done with Blackwater.
Fuck, man. Yeah, nope. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. If you saved and pay your taxes, it's a good little nest egg.
Don't worry, my ex-wife took most of that, so it didn't. Look, come on, man. You have to know that. You have to. Come on. It's like you haven't been listening to me talk. It's not like I made the best decisions here.
I was hopeful. I was hoping you turned it around. But now we have to dig into that, man. Like that takes a toll on life, on not only you physically and mentally, but the people that are there supporting you. Like, and you know, spoiler alert, like it ended in divorce. But what was the family life like while you're over here in Iraq, living the dream of every soldier, being a Blackwater gun and runner?
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much alienated everybody in my family, and that's it. Somebody actually dug into this question the other day with me, and I started to realize, like, when you're overseas, you don't want to tell your family how crazy it is, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and call grandma or my aunt or whatever it is and say, oh, yeah, by the way, a rocket hit like 50 meters away and blew up a generator, and we all thought we were going to die. So you don't tell them.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking to them, they tell you stuff that like you don't give a shit about. Like, oh, little Billy's not swimming very well. We have to give him extra lessons. And the price of milk went up 74 cents. And like I don't give a shit about that back then. I can talk about it all day, but like at some point you're overseas so long that you start alienating these relationships because you don't want to tell them. And you sure as fuck don't care about little Billy. And then you come home and you're like, okay, well, I'm back and everything's fine. And they're like, dude, you haven't talked to me in 6 months. I liken it to like going into a wormhole.
Yeah.
Right? You start and then 18 months later or a year later, whatever your deployment is, you come out the other end of it and you think you're the exact same guy. And the entire world changed. It's like Marvel. It's like everything changed, but it's all really similar.
Yep.
So you come back and you're like, well, now I'm in charge and I'm going to pay this bill and I'm going to do this. And it just causes so many fights and so many divorces and angst and agitation. By the time I got back, man, nobody wanted to be around me. I was just a dick. Like I can look at myself and say, you're an asshole. Hey, Morgan, you're a big fat asshole. Like you need to decompress for a while. So definitely it took a long time to repair those relationships. Some of them, never came back.
And that's, that's life, man. Like You can only work on yourself, try to get better, and then, have open discourse when the other parties are willing to. And that's the thing that sucks, man. A lot of us can look back at our service when we were younger, and we were exactly that. We were just young fucking assholes, dicks. I remember being in call centers, in 2008 or 2007, 2008, even 2009, 2010, like, we didn't have the big MWRs. Like, you still had the AT&T call centers. I remember just fucking getting fucking raped on those fucking AT&T call cards, sitting down, doing your call, and you're hearing other people saying exactly what you were just talking about, like just zoning out. Like, yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm alive. You didn't give a fuck. You're just like trying to make that little bit of effort to connect with somebody back then. And it's now on the backside when you're older, you're like, man, like, maybe I could have put a little bit more effort. But at the same time, it's a combat zone. Everybody's trying to disassociate and compartmentalize so they can make it through another day. Like, it was just a little more difficult when you're a Blackwater guy.
When you can't really explain, because I mean, bringing up the call center, we had a rocket going to the call center. There was a Navy guy, only guy in there, ended up being like splattered all over the wall. Yeah. And you can't really explain that to somebody back home anyway, right? I remember the first time we got rocketed, we were in this big like circus tent. And we all had our beds, and we had like little foot lockers. And the first rocket hits, and everybody sits up in bed and kind of looks around. The second rocket hits, and it's pretty close, and we're like, I don't want to go to the bunker, but I don't want to be the pussy here. And then the third rocket hits, and it's like close enough to where your guts start moving.
Yeah.
And one guy, dude, stands up and runs out like the flap in the tent, and we all looked around, we're like, pussy. And then we ran after him, right? Like you can't explain that to a normal human. Like, I was just sitting there waiting for the first person to wimp out so that I wasn't like that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's everybody. That's fucking everybody. It's just the absolute worst. It's like, I'm not moving until somebody else moves. Like, I am not going to be the one that breaks. Fuck that. Or even worse, you happen to be out at night and you're like, you see everybody running, like, I don't want to seem like a pussy. So I'm just going to walk at a casual pace. And if I happen to see a bunker on the way, maybe I'll get in that bitch.
I was talking to my buddy. He was in Blackwater. And he's like, remember when we were like walking from somewhere and the rockets hit this generator, like blew up 2 generators like 50 meters from us. And I looked over at him and go, we're going to have to go through the embassy, man. And he had just got on ground and was like, what the fuck is going on? And like, that's just where I was at in life by then, right? 7 months in, you take so many rockets, so many mortars. You're like, yeah, that was a little closer to normal. We should probably walk this way instead of that way. Plus we can get some Pop-Tarts at the chow hall on the way through. So like, this is a win-win.
Dude. And I have to imagine, having been in Blackwater, you have most definitely acquired some injuries and some mental anguish. What was it like finally transitioning out of the military and then finally having to unpack all those fucking bags?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are probably still packed in my garage, in like the very bottom of a Contico box. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I never personalized anything. And I think there's a lot of people that like personalize stuff. Or like a rocket comes in, they were shooting rockets at me. They weren't, right? They were just shooting rockets. Or like an IED, they blew me up. Like, no, they didn't blow you up. They just blew up the vehicle you happen to be in. So I'm really lucky in that I didn't take anything personal. It's like, like you get some close calls, and at the end of the day, like if I wasn't standing there, it could have been somebody else. We had a rocket go through our team tent, and we had a bunch of guys in there, and we're like running over there to like start pulling out the wounded and the dead and all that stuff. Turns out it was a dud, but the first thing a guy says is, fuck, there goes our internet, right? Like it's just like this weird thing where you either compartmentalize it or you like take it really personal and it fucks with your head. Yeah. So I compartmentalized it, and then slowly over time, it's like I've done some crazy stuff. So like, what does that actually mean? And dude, I don't know, but I can tell you that going through the VA hasn't helped a whole lot.
Fact.
Well, and here's the other crazy thing. Like, as a contractor, actually, I'm gonna give some bummer news. So we had a Blackwater guy kill himself earlier this week. Happens a lot.
I'm sorry, brother.
because like when you come home as a contractor, you don't have anybody to reach out to, right? You don't go there with
Yeah.
your team or your unit and you get to decompress, and then, you know, you're standing at formation like 3-4 days later before you go on block leave. It's just you.
Yeah.
And so as a contractor, like there's no VA. There's no like, hey, let's go talk to mental health, or let's go over here and have a bonfire. It's literally just you, and all your buddies are spread across the earth, literally like anywhere on the earth. So a lot of Blackwater guys have a really hard time assimilating because they don't have anybody to share those experiences with.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of them just never make it out. And dude, it's been 20 years, and you know, it's been since Blackwater disbanded. It's been at least 13, and some of these guys still haven't made it out, like mentally, and they're taking the final out, which is a huge bummer.
Dude, it's a huge problem that no one talks about because, and I had a gentleman on a couple weeks ago, great dude, Rhodesian Army service member, but it's the same thing that he experienced. You know, after that war, there's no country left. Country's gone. I can always go to the VA. I can always connect with other veterans and sit down. And you still have that camaraderie as well, but it's not the same thing. When you served, when you were part of Blackwater, that was a huge organization. You guys were part of history. When it was destroyed and broken apart, where does your community go? Where does that brotherhood go? And it's the same thing we see in the veteran community. It's the same thing we see in the first responder community. But it's even more, I would say it's even more impacted because you don't have your brotherhood. Your sense of understanding, like Blackwater was disbanded, the name was thrown through the mud by, you know, political figures, by people here in the United States. Like, how do we rally and get support and build something for these guys? Like, how do you guys, do you try to keep in touch through a thread? Is there is there something you've built together? Or is there something in the works where you can build some sort of community or a sense of like belonging again? Because I got to imagine, like, when you can't reach out to that Facebook group, it's even harder.
Oh, but there is a Facebook group. It's it's really helpful. It's a bunch of old farts now that are like, put me in, coach, I'm ready. And I'm like, dude, you got like one of those walkers with the tennis balls on it. Stop. And you're on oxygen. Knock it off.
They can't be that old yet. It hasn't been that long.
No, I mean, dude, I was 23, but a lot of the guys were in their 40s, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
they're pushing 60, 65, even 70. But I mean, there's a Facebook group. I can't be on it because it's just a bunch of old fuckers either trying to relive their glory days.
Yeah, too much negativity.
Like, dude, as soon as I come out with a book, it's like, oh, that guy, he wasn't real Blackwater because he was security forces before Blackwater, and it's like, dude,
so you guys suffer from the same shit in the veteran groups.
Yeah, pretty much.
Help me help you.
Yeah. And then you have Eric Prince, our fearless leader, that goes on to like Sean Ryan podcast, and he's like, let me tell you about Blackwater suicides. No, he doesn't, dude. He goes in there and tries to peddle his phone, or like private security and how privatization of like the F-16s in Ukraine could have turned the war. So it really is just like a lost, forgotten like brotherhood at this point that, you know, everybody wants to think that it's really cool because we had a really cool logo, dude. I mean, it was fucking badass.
It still fucks, as the kids say.
Yeah.
It's still up there.
But there's nothing that like this is where I've really turned the page, is that there's no support system for private military contractors. And if you're going to keep putting them overseas instead of boots on the ground, we probably need to take a look at that. Because although it's convenient to send over, 30, 40 Blackwater guys instead of sending over 120 like U.S. soldiers, they still come back with all the same scars, the mental, the physical, and then you come home and it's just like, what do you do with your life? Well, if you're not going to be hanging out on the Facebook group, then you're out, bro. We're not even going to associate with you. And I served with a lot of soldiers, and the suicide rate at Blackwater is exponentially higher than in the service. And I've looked for data on it, and dude, nobody collects data. And I'm not just talking about Blackwater guys, right? If you were over there washing laundry, if you were like
triple
spraying
canopy,
for bugs,
all those dudes.
Yeah. Like there's no statistics on how many of those guys came home, their suicide rates, their mental health, because it is just, it's a mercenary life, man.
Yeah. I think that there's got to be something we can do. I think peer-to-peer support is one of the most important things that we've seen a lot of people rally to. And maybe it just takes Morgan reaching up and starting that banner and bringing in people to talk on a Thursday night or Wednesday night. But I think it's important to have that community again, man. And I can't imagine what it's like to have that, especially like you said, the guy that created it all. He's still a very powerful individual, and if you're not backing the dudes that came and supported you and were part of that movement and part of your organization when you needed them most, like, what good are you? Like,
Yeah.
all the phones in the world are great. Like, I don't think we need another one. I don't know how well this one's going to do, but there's a lot of work that can be done for the guys that, work their asses off for you. There's got to be something there.
Well, and dude, I'm not playing the woe is me card by any stretch of the imagination, but if you owned a coal company and you sent those guys underground to do coal, you should probably pay for their black lung. And it's just what
yeah,
I'm just throwing that out there, And I know that it's like, well, we front load the price because you're getting paid so much more. But I think it's something that needs to be looked at because PMCs are getting larger, right? We have them at the U.S.-Mexico border. We have them in Haiti. We have them in Syria. Like, you name it. We got them everywhere.
Yep.
And they're going to come home at some point and be like, what the hell do I do with my life? And I mean, hopefully, like, I get on as many podcasts as I can. I talk about it. There is something called the Defense Base Act. So if any contractors are listening to this or watching it, reach out to me on any of my socials and I'll get you hooked up with it's an insurance claim through the Department of Labor. But it really is still just word of mouth. And Blackwater guys hate me because I wrote a book. So maybe the pariah shouldn't be the one that's trying to get everybody to come together. But
what do you feel is the big what's the big issue with the community against the book?
Well, dude, the Butthurt Brigade got on there and we're like, that's not how it was. Oh, I was over there. That's not how it was. And it's like, dude, this is exactly how it was. And like I said, if you weren't on my team, if you weren't on QRF, you did not have the same experience as me. But at the same time, a lot of those Blackwater guys, it's what they identify as, right? It's like that sergeant major that gets out and all he is a sergeant major.
That's it. Yeah.
Same thing with Blackwater guys. I'm Blackwater. You got your shirts and your hats and all that stuff. And anytime you walk down the street, it's like the thank you for my service, but it's a Blackwater. So a lot of those guys didn't like it because I was straight up. I wasn't sitting here like, sucking on the bear paw as hard as I could. Like I tell the good and the bad of what we did, and people are like, "Oh no, we weren't mercenaries." And I'm like, dude, call us whatever you want, but at the end of the day, YouTube don't lie, bro. And I was in those convoys.
I think the thing that people need to understand is your lived experience isn't necessarily going to be the lived experience of Timmy McDoodles that served in Blackwater at the same time. It can be completely different. And it's okay to tell your fucking story. Like, you cannot sit here and bash on everybody that's writing a book and wanting to share their story. Like, you don't know what impact that story is going to have. Maybe it'll help another Blackwater guy finally come out and tell his story from a different era, from a different time period, and be able to share, like, hey, this is what I went through. It's a little different than what Morgan did, but hey, it's important because without it, we don't have the influence. We don't get people that say, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to do this, or maybe I don't want to do this. Like, being able to write and sit down and share your story is one of the most important things we can do for our time in service. The GWAT era is going to quickly become the Vietnam era. And unless we fucking write our stories and share them with the world, people are going to fucking forget. And then we're going to do what? Do fucking Iraq 2.0 somewhere else around the world. And that's the fucking truth. We need more stories, not less. We need more people like you, Morgan, that are willing to get out there and say, dude, I did something fucking wild and fucking crazy when I was in my fucking 20s, and here it is. Judge me if you want, but this was my lived experience. And that's beautiful. That's admirable. We need more stories, not less. And go ahead. Sorry.
We need the junior enlisted guys to get out there, get an education, and write your damn story. Because if I have to read one more book from a general or a president or the Secretary of Defense talking about how great we were doing in Iraq and Afghanistan, dude, those books first off, they suck to read.
They do.
And second off, nobody's going to look themselves in the face and say, oh, I did, like, Iraq was a huge failure. Let me tell you why. Dude, I love the ground perspective, man. I love hearing about the guys that actually pulled the trigger as opposed to the guy that was like, and then we sent 7th Brigade on a flanking mission to, who gives a shit, man? Like, I want the dude that's like, I had to figure out when I went through that door if that person was like a combatant or not a combatant. What does that feel like? And that's what I try to do with the book, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I walk through the process of like, flipping my selector switch to fire, and then like how everything gets into tunnel vision and goes slow-mo, and you're starting to fire, and you can start, like, I could see where my bullets were skipping towards this red car. Like shot in front of it first and then slowly started moving up. And like, get your story out there. One, supposedly it's cathartic if everybody doesn't hate your guts. It wasn't that cathartic for me. But two, like, if you don't know how what a toll, if you don't write about the toll that war takes on young men and women, then people are going to be more willing to send those young men and women back to war.
Absolutely, man. That is spot the fuck on. And I don't think every war book has to be the same. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of hesitancy in individuals that weren't part of combat MOS, that weren't part of a direct action raid, that weren't part of a huge convoy operation that got blown up. I'm telling you right now, your perspective and your story matters too. What you did in Iraq, what you did in Afghanistan is just as important. I want to hear all the stories, all the crazy shit, all the funny stuff, all the not so good shit. One of the greatest fucking stories I ever heard was from a Marine Sergeant Major that was not a fucking infantry guy. But in the early days of GWAT, guess what? You were on a truck and you were an extra fucking gunner. And his stories just blew my fucking mind. But the individual didn't want to share them. Why? Because, well, I wasn't traditionally an infantry guy. I was supply. And it's like, dude, yeah, but in that time period, you were just another body that got put on a gun. And you got to experience and see life in a whole different world in that time period. And you're right. If we don't share this, if we don't talk about it, if we don't normalize being able to promote all different stories from that era, we're going to forget. And then it's going to be our kids that are getting sent to some shithole for some stupid fucking idea. And it's like, here we go again. And it's the, don't listen to the negative echo chamber. Like, I do believe that these small pockets of support do help, but to an extent, because when you get in these Facebook groups, when you get in the Instagram, and it's just the same negativity over and over again, talking about the good old years. Now, life doesn't get any better than what it was back then. That can quickly spiral out of control. So we need individuals that are willing to talk and be peer support, be able to engage outside of that and say, hey, you know what? There's an amazing world outside. Like you have to let go of the days of Blackwater. It's over. It's not coming back, I hope. And there's a better life out there. Like being able to inspire hope. And do you feel that at any moment in that book, do you feel like that message gets put out there at all?
Yeah, at the very end, I'll be honest with you, because a lot of it's like what you said. Dude, it's like the funny stories. It's you talking to your buddy because you're bored. We had this one guy, really, really intelligent guy, African-American Marine Corps sniper. And he comes at us with this existential question. He's like, would you rather fuck a Thai lady boy or the fattest, ugliest, most disgusting woman on the planet? And we're like, the woman. And he's like, really, dude? Like the Thai lady boy, gorgeous, like stacked, like, and we're like, no, dude, you fuck the woman or else you're gay. And he's like, no, I'm like, I'd fuck the lady boy, but I'm not gay. And we're like, dude, you're gay if you fuck the lady boy. And he's like, no, I'm not gay. Like we were going through this whole trans thing before, spitballing the trans thing before it became popular. Yeah. And by the end of it, it was like, okay, so, Andrew's gay and we're all straight, but we fucked the most hideous pig on the planet. And dude, those are the stories that get lost, right? It's just literally sitting there and BSing with your buddies. Dude, the hooker stories, that's why I put girls in the title. Those special operations guys love hookers. And they are the funniest stories
Allegedly.
ever. Allegedly. Except everybody was like, I'm going to Thailand to get hookers. So, dude.
First group.
Yeah. So, dude, like, go tell your story. I was talking to a guy, he's a C-130 pilot. And I was like, dude, write a book. And he's like, oh, it's not really that neat. And I was like, dude, you have a perspective that's like not on the ground, but just above it. So
Yeah.
when you talk about Iraq and seeing all those like tracer rounds going around in the air and what was happening while you were flying in and out, like, dude, that's a cool story. And 99% of the population doesn't have a cool story like that. Get it out there, get it on paper. And if it sucks, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. Just get through that rough draft. And if anything, if for nobody else, do it for you. Maybe your kids or maybe your wife. People want to know about that part of your life. Like, there's so many things that you experience in combat that have nothing to do with pulling a trigger. Like, my own personal story, I didn't learn how to play softball or baseball as a kid growing up. Like, I played football and I did track. The first time I played a game of catch, of baseball with a glove and other dudes was in Iraq with my squad. Like, I'll never fucking forget that. I'll never fucking forget that. Like, being able to finally play catch, and it's like, I hope they don't realize I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But it's those moments, that moment stuck. And I remember telling my wife, I remember like, dude, like, you want to know one of the greatest memories from my early days in the infantry was playing catch, like with my squad in Iraq. Like that was it. Like that was in those moments, there's millions of them for every service member out there. Like if you're listening, collect up all those memories, collect up all those moments, the good, bad, the indifferent, and write your fucking story. I mean, don't leave it up to Morgan. Like, don't let him be the only person writing books. Go out there and put yours on, or be willing at least to share it. Be willing to at least come on a podcast and share it with people, because I think it's amazing being able to look back and reflect on that time period. It's so different now. Like, war is rapidly evolving to something that does not involve human beings. And it's a very scary thing watching drone warfare advance right in front of your eyes every day in the evening news and online. And the future does not look good for warfare.
No, I remember in 2005 when we were doing map recons on Google Earth. And then by the time I got back in 2009, you had Blue Force trackers that, had Google Street View on it. And I was like, whoa, where was this? So, dude, war does evolve so fast. And I read a ton of Vietnam era books and listened to those guys' stories. And you're just like, dude, those guys were legit. And then the World War II guys are like, those Vietnam guys were pussies. And I'm sure the next war you and I will be sitting here and be like, oh, those guys are pussies. They fought from a joystick in Nellis Air Force Base. We'll be those old salty guys, but like, it's still something that almost nobody experiences. Get it on paper, or at least just go talk to somebody about it, man.
So fucking true, man. So Morgan, what do you do these days? What's life like for Morgan?
Oh man, I'm married. I got two. Don't tell them this, dude, but I got two pretty awesome kids and a wife. Like, and I'm in the corporate slog, right? Like, I got out of the Army. I went to this very snooty graduate school up in Boston, Tufts University.
I know. I was like, fuck, my man went to Tufts.
Yeah. So I went to the snooty school, and then I got into corporate America and just kind of like navigated my way through it. And dude, it's a good gig. People are always like, well, what's the next thing? And it's like, dude, I just want to enjoy being a dad. Like, I want to be a good husband. I want to grow lemon trees that actually have lemons on them. Like, as crazy as this sounds, if I could grow a tomato plant and get a tomato, I don't even like tomatoes, but like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's where I'm at in life. Maybe I'm like 70 already. I don't know.
No way, dude. That's success. That is life. It's like that. You've won the game of life. You've made it through the absolute fucking worst. Made some money, lost some money, got a good job now, and you can just focus on what really, really, truly matters: being a husband and being a father. And so many of us never learn that lesson. By the grace of God, some of us stumble upon it, and we realize, like, have that epiphany of like, oh shit, being a husband, being a father—that's what matters. Like, nothing else. Like, if I can put food on the table, if I can take care of them financially, perfect. It doesn't mean I have to fucking have extravagant getaways to Disney every month. It doesn't mean we have to go to the fucking Italian coast. No, just provide, keep them safe, and have, a successful like ability to look at your kids and say, you're not drug addicts, and you're not on the street. I've succeeded. Like, that's what matters in life. And
yeah, thank God. I mean, they're only like 8 and 10. So if they were drug addicts on the street, man, I'd be in a bad spot. But
if you're in California, that could happen.
That's true.
Morgan, thank you so much for being on here, man. Again, where can we go get this book right now?
Go snag it on Amazon. Guns, Girls, and Greed. I was a Blackwater mercenary in Iraq. You have to do it with like a lower tone so it sounds cooler.
Did you do an Audible as well?
I did. Jay Moore, the guy that was in like he was in Jerry Maguire.
Yes,
he was in Saturday Night Live.
absolutely.
Yeah, he read my book. He's a good friend. Yeah. That's the weird thing that happens when you write books. You get to meet like celebrities and stuff. It's very weird.
I'm already picturing that dude read your book. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That voice is iconic.
Yeah, no, and he's the reason I got sober 6 months ago, almost to the day. He's the reason why I got sober. And like, to your point earlier, be a good human and then trying to help out other people. If I can help out any contractors with like Defense Base Act claims, hit me up on social media. It's easy to get a hold of me. Send me a message request, because that's, just being a good dude is pretty much, that's my mission in life right now. Until Blackwater 2.0 comes back and I'm there with my oxygen tank being like, let's go.
Tajikistan.
Yeah. Iran is not being nice. We could really free the shit out of them.
It may be happening.
I know.
That may be happening. I'm not saying put me in, coach. I've done my time. I'd rather be at home, with my wife and raising a family. But, hey, to all you out there who are still in the fight, take care of yourself. Drone warfare is no joke, and we'll see you all here next time. Till then, take care.